Hey friends, today I'm taking you to a place where the ocean waves carry more than just water. They hide secrets, whispers, and a mystery waiting to be told. This is the story of a hidden lighthouse, a light that stood strong even when everything was covered in darkness. So sit back, relax, and let this journey touch your heart. It was night. The waves of the sea were gently hitting the shore. The air carried the salty scent of moisture, and the clouds had covered the moon as if hiding a secret. This Northern American shore had never truly been peaceful. People said there was an old lighthouse here that had been abandoned for years. But the strange thing was, on stormy nights, its light could still sometimes be seen. This was the very shore where Alex arrived for the first time. He was a young painter going through the biggest loss of his life. Just a few months earlier, his engagement had broken off, leaving a strange emptiness in his life. He wanted to escape the world, to go somewhere unknown and mend his broken thoughts. A friend had told him about this shore, saying peace could be found here, but had also warned him, this place isn't as simple as it looks. When Alex stepped out of the car, his feet sank into the sand. The sand was cool and damp, as if the sea had just touched it. He looked around. Ahead, there was nothing but endless water, and behind him a thick line of forest trees. But what caught his attention most was an old building, the lighthouse. This lighthouse was unlike any ordinary structure. Its walls bore the marks of dampness and time. The windows were broken, the roof was crumbling, yet the strangest part was that as soon as Alex looked at it, he saw a faint light flicker. "That's not possible. They say it's been shut for years," Alex whispered to himself. He sat on the shore for a while. The sea breeze tossed his hair as he drifted into thought. Childhood memories came rushing back. He remembered how his father often said light always cuts through darkness, no matter how weak it may be. The words echoed in his heart, as if the lighthouse itself was reminding him that his story wasn't over yet. At that moment, he noticed something else strange. In the sound of the waves, there seemed to be a whisper. It felt like the waves were carrying a message, hiding a secret. Alex leaned in to listen, but all he heard was the roar mixed with his pounding heartbeat. Still, something inside him felt drawn toward the lighthouse. He stood up and slowly walked across the sand. With every step, his heartbeat quickened. The shore was deserted, but the air carried a heavy, unsettling feeling, as if someone was watching him. When he got closer, he saw the lighthouse door. It was half broken, hanging on rusted hinges. It looked as though no one had touched it for years. Yet, strangely, a faint line of light seeped out from under it. Alex froze for a moment. His heart urged him to turn back, telling him this place wasn't safe. But his curious spirit whispered, "This is the moment. If you don't uncover the secret, where will you ever find peace?" He took a deep breath and gently pushed the door. It creaked open, and a cold gust struck his face. Inside was darkness, but from an upper floor a faint glow shimmered. In that moment, Alex felt this journey was the beginning of answers to his grief and questions. This shore was not just a place, it was the doorway to a mysterious world. The moment Alex stepped inside, his feet stopped. The cold, decayed walls of the lighthouse seemed to touch the wounds of his heart. A storm of sadness was already raging within him, and this desolate building only deepened that grief. He sat on an old wooden chair lying near the door. The chair creaked as if carrying someone's weight after years. He closed his eyes and sank into his thoughts. Just a few months ago, his life had been completely different. He was a painter whose artwork decorated the city galleries. He had dreamed of one day building a large studio where his love, Emma, would always be the first to see his paintings. Together, they had woven dreams of a future, marriage, a small home, and the wish to live near the sea. But dreams don't always take the shape of reality. Emma had suddenly walked out of his life. She had said, "Alex, your world belongs to canvases and colors, but my world carries the weight of reality. I want someone who can walk the ground with me, not drift through clouds of dreams." Those words had pierced Alex's heart like a dagger. That day became the darkest day of his life. In just a single moment, everything shattered. His engagement was broken, his dreams fell to the ground in pieces. Even his own people couldn't understand him. Everyone said, with time, everything will be fine. But time only seemed to deepen his wounds. And now here he was, on a strange shore in a lighthouse that itself was falling apart. It was a strange coincidence. Inside him and before him was the same story, broken dreams and decayed walls. Suddenly, from above, he heard the sound of a wooden plank shifting. Alex flinched. He opened his eyes and looked upward. A dim light was flickering there. Along with fear, another feeling stirred within him. Maybe this is the secret light hidden within broken dreams. He slowly began climbing the stairs. The steps creaked under his weight, echoing like the burden of his past with every move. In that moment, he whispered to himself, "If my dreams have broken, then maybe this place will give me a new one, or perhaps complete darkness." As Alex climbed the old wooden stairs, the creaking of his steps echoed in the darkness. When he reached the top, he pushed open the round room's door. It opened with a rough sound, and what he saw shook his heart. There shouldn't have been any light in the lighthouse room. No bulb was lit, and not a single window pane was fully intact. Yet, in the center of the room, a faint blue glow was swirling, like a living flame suspended in the air. Alex was stunned. He stretched out his hand to touch the light, but as soon as it brushed against his fingers, the glow vanished, only to reappear in another corner. With the light, something strange began to appear on the wall as well. On the surface of the old stone, faint words seemed to rise. They weren't written in any ordinary language, but they flowed like the rhythm of the sea's waves. Alex looked closely, and it felt as if the words were speaking to him. What is this? He wondered silently. Suddenly, the blue glow flared brightly for a moment, and before his eyes appeared a vision. A massive storm in the sea, waves crashing near the shore, people screaming for help. Alex's heart pounded violently. Could this be the future? Sweat poured down his face. The lighthouse was filled with cold air, yet a wave of heat rushed through his body. He placed his hand against the wall, and the mark there glowed for an instant, as if recognizing his touch. In that moment, Alex realized this was no ordinary lighthouse. It was hiding a secret, perhaps the answer to his broken dreams, or another trial waiting for him. The blue light in the lighthouse was still moving across the room like waves. Alex kept staring at it, but the more he looked, the stronger his uneasiness grew. Something was hidden in the darkness, something his eyes couldn't see, but his heart kept warning him about. In the corner of the room lay an old wooden chest. A rusted lock clung to it, and it looked as though no one had touched it for years. But as soon as the light fell upon it, the shadows around the chest began to take strange shapes. At times it looked like the shadow of a person. Other times it seemed like a sea wave climbing up the wall. Alex stepped back. His heartbeat quickened. Is this only my imagination, or is someone watching me? Suddenly, a strong gust of wind slammed the door shut. The entire room shuddered. The blue glow dimmed at once and began circling only around the chest. It seemed as if the light was signaling to him that this was the true secret of the darkness. Alex's legs trembled, yet curiosity wouldn't let him retreat. When he touched the lock, a chilling shiver ran through his bones. In that moment he felt as though someone had whispered into his ear, "Every light comes with its darkness." He spun around instantly, but no one was there. Only the creeping shadows across the lighthouse walls, moving as if alive. Now two paths stood before Alex. Either open the chest and uncover the secret hidden in the darkness, or turn back and leave the greatest question of his life forever unanswered. The chill of the chest's lock was still echoing in Alex's heart, but the weight of this darkness was too much to bear alone. He stepped out onto the shore, where the night waves crashed against the rocks, whispering in strange tones. There he saw an old fisherman gathering his nets. His beard was white, his eyes carried the depth of the sea, and his face bore the marks of time. Hesitantly, Alex asked, "Do you know anything about this lighthouse?" The old fisherman smiled and said, "Son, this lighthouse is no ordinary place. For centuries a secret has been hidden here. They say whenever that blue light appears, a trial is near." Alex's heartbeat quickened. What kind of trial? The fisherman set down his net and pointed toward the distant sea. "That light calls to those who are lost, those searching for answers to the greatest questions of their lives. But remember, every answer has a price. Some have paid it and never returned." Hearing this, Alex fell silent, yet one question kept echoing in his mind. Was this light meant for him? Was this lighthouse about to become the answer to his broken dreams? At last, the old fisherman spoke words that engraved themselves into Alex's heart. "Do not fear the darkness, because sometimes the path to the light passes right through it." The night's darkness had wrapped the entire shore in its cloak. Clouds covered the sky, and the dim moonlight scattered a strange enchantment across the sea's surface. Alex sat alone on a rock, but it felt as though the sea itself was speaking to him. With the wind, the sound of the waves seemed like human whispers. At times it felt as if someone was calling his name, and other times as though an old secret was being revealed. Alex's heart began to pound and he leaned in to listen. "Don't turn back, move forward." The words seemed hidden within the roar of the waves. Startled, he stood and walked closer to the water. Suddenly, a large wave crashed against the rocks, dropping a small piece of old wood at his feet. On that wood were strange carvings, as if someone long ago had left a message. Alex picked it up and examined it closely. The markings looked exactly like the ones on the chest's lock. Fear and curiosity flashed in his eyes together. Now he was certain the sea and the lighthouse were connected by some secret, and none of this was mere coincidence. At that moment, the wind grew stronger, the waves roared louder, as if the sea itself was challenging him. "If you have the courage, come closer to the truth." Alex kept the piece of wood with him and resolved in his heart that he would not stop until he understood the message hidden in those whispers. Alex placed the old piece of wood in his bag and looked toward the shore. In the distance, the mysterious lighthouse flickered, sometimes glowing, sometimes fading into darkness. It felt as if the light was calling only to him. His heartbeat raced, but his steps refused to stop. For the first time, he decided he would reach that lighthouse no matter what. The path was not easy. The sand was deep, the wind was cold, and darkness stretched everywhere. Yet inside him, an unseen strength had awakened, pushing him forward. As he walked, he noticed strange markings along the way. Some stones carried the same symbols carved on the piece of wood. It was as if someone long ago had prepared this path and left it for a chosen person. Recognizing the signs, Alex moved ahead and thought to himself, could all of this really be meant for me? The roar of the ocean followed him, sometimes near, sometimes far. The whispers of the wind felt like they were guiding his steps. Suddenly, the ground grew soft and his feet began to sink. Alex barely managed to steady himself by grabbing an old tree nearby. On its bark, faint scratches revealed the same markings again. Now there was no room for doubt. The lighthouse was not an ordinary place. It was the center of an ancient secret. And somehow that secret was tied to his own life. He paused for a moment, caught his breath, and looked up at the sky. From behind the clouds, the moon appeared, casting its glow directly on the lighthouse. It was as if nature itself was telling him, "This is your destination, do not turn back." Gathering his courage, Alex stepped onto the unknown path. He didn't know what lay ahead, but he was certain of one thing: this journey would change his life forever. As Alex drew closer to the lighthouse, his steps grew slower. In the dark night, the towering structure looked like a sleeping giant. Strong gusts of wind whistled through its broken windows, sounding almost like voices calling from within. Standing at the door, he took a deep breath. A strange weight pressed on his chest. Fear was there, but so was curiosity. His mind told him to turn back, that this place was not meant for him, yet his heartbeat pushed him forward. When he touched the door, a damp chill seeped into his hands. The wood was decayed, but under some unseen force, it opened easily. Inside, there was only darkness. Faint light slipped in through cracks in the ceiling, reflecting off damp walls. His footsteps echoed back at him as if someone was following. The loneliness was so heavy that his heart began to race. It felt like the whole world had gone silent and only he remained alive. But within that silence was also a strange power, a force telling him that this was the test of his destiny. In that moment, Alex realized the biggest question of his life. Would he accept this loneliness and move forward or surrender to fear? He paused, then closed his eyes and whispered, "I will not bow to fear." And with that, he took another step forward. The darkness was deep, but his curiosity had grown stronger than his fear. Alex moved slowly deeper into the lighthouse. Each step echoed lightly, fading into the walls. The damp air made his body shiver. But what unsettled him most were the strange sounds rising from all around. Whispers seeped from the walls, sometimes like the soft cry of someone weeping, sometimes a faint eerie laugh, and sometimes it felt as though someone stood close calling his name. "Alex!" He froze and spun around, but there was nothing, only darkness and emptiness. His heartbeat quickened. Placing his hand against the wall, he realized it was no ordinary wall. It felt as if something inside was moving, like old memories, like secrets trapped within, desperate to break free. It was as if the lighthouse itself was alive, trying to tell its story. Alex whispered to himself, "These voices aren't meant to scare me. Maybe they're trying to tell me something." Each whisper sparked new questions in his mind, and each question pulled him closer to the truth. But what was the secret? Was something really hidden behind these walls? Or was it all just his imagination? Loneliness, fear, and curiosity blended together. He made up his mind. Whatever it took, he would not leave until he uncovered the secret. As Alex climbed the broken wooden stairs inside the lighthouse, his heart pounded faster. Each step groaned under his weight, as if the wood hadn't carried anyone for centuries. The air was filled with dampness and the stale scent of decay. Halfway up, his eyes caught a crack in the wall, one that most would overlook. Curious, he ran his hand over it and felt a hollow space behind. Pulling a small knife from his pocket, he began scraping away the old plaster. Moments later, a chunk of the wall crumbled away, revealing a small, hidden door, sealed shut for years. Gathering his courage, Alex pushed it open. With a creak, the door slowly swung inward, exposing a pitch-black room. He lifted his lantern and shined the light inside. What he saw made him freeze. This room was nothing like the rest of the lighthouse. Old maps hung from the walls, showing sea routes that didn't exist on any known charts. In the corner stood a rotting table thick with dust. On it lay a weathered diary, its edges stiff from years of seawater soaking in. Alex picked up the diary and flipped it open. On the very first page, his eyes widened in shock. It read, "Whoever understands the secret of this light will also learn the lost language of the sea. But remember, every secret demands its price." The silence in the room deepened. The maps and the diary's words seemed to whisper directly to him. Alex realized this wasn't just an old discovery. It was the very heart of the mystery hidden inside the lighthouse. And in that moment, he knew this journey would change his life forever. Alex stood in the forgotten room, turning the fragile pages of the diary. With each page, a new world seemed to unfold. Suddenly, his eyes landed on a section stained heavily with water. The words were blurred, but a few lines were still clear. It read, "This light does not only save the sea, but it also guides souls. Yet that day I lost everything. The greatest sorrow of my life. The storm that swept it all away." A strange sadness settled in Alex's heart. He wondered who had written this diary. Was it the old keeper of the lighthouse? Or perhaps a fisherman who had vanished into the secrets of the sea? In the silence of the room, it almost felt as if a sigh echoed through the walls. On the next page, a date was written, and beneath it only one line. "The moment I saved the light but lost my world." Alex closed his eyes. In his mind, he pictured the scene, the raging storm, boats sinking beneath furious waves, and perhaps a loved one swallowed forever by the sea. This lighthouse was not just a beacon of light. It was a monument of grief, a reminder of sacrifice and loss. In the corner of the wall, Alex noticed a carved mark. Moving closer, he saw it resembled the initial of a name, as though someone had etched it there in memory of someone they loved. Running his hand over it, Alex felt a deep ache and an even deeper curiosity awaken inside him. This mark of sorrow was not just part of an old story. It was a sign that the secret of the lighthouse was bound to personal sacrifices and forgotten memories. Alex knew then that he could not move forward without first understanding this painful past. The old diary in Alex's hands was heavy with dust and dampness, but suddenly he noticed something unusual. Toward the end, some pages looked different, like they had been added later. The paper was slightly newer and the ink much darker than the rest. Carefully, Alex opened one of those pages. The writing was unlike the rest of the diary. The letters seemed rushed, almost scratched, onto the paper, with many words crossed out over and over. The very first line made his heartbeat quicken. This secret must never be revealed. Whoever reads it will not escape the wrath of the sea. Alex drew in a sharp breath. The words felt more like a threat, as if the writer knew someone, someday, would find this diary. Further down, another sentence read, "The light is not only guidance, it is a prison. Whoever understands its secret will become part of that prison." Alex's hands trembled slightly. It felt as if the walls of the room were closing in on him. He kept reading carefully, but each word carried a strange mix of fear and strangeness. In the corner of the pages, there was a strange symbol, like a circle formed between ocean waves and the sun. Running his finger over it, Alex realized it wasn't just drawn with ink. It had been burned or branded into the page. This wasn't just a diary anymore. It was someone's hidden message, perhaps from a stranger who had known the true secret of the lighthouse and left these words as a warning for the future. One question echoed in Alex's mind. Was this strange writing a warning? Or was it a clue leading to the real secret? The diary's pages stirred a fear in Alex's heart, one that an ordinary person could never endure. Yet alongside that fear, a new feeling arose, the feeling of sacrifice. One part of the diary read, "This light will keep shining as long as someone gives up their happiness, their freedom, and their peace." The lighthouse is not just a beam, it is a promise against the fury of the sea. Alex read those words again and again. Memories of childhood pain, loneliness, and the days when he had sacrificed his dreams for others came rushing back. He thought perhaps that was the reason fate had brought him here, to make him realize that sacrifice never goes in vain. Sitting in the silence of the room, he felt that pain does not break a person, it shapes them. Just as the waves of the sea crash against the rocks only to make them stronger, hardships too make a person truly resilient. For Alex, this was a lesson. If life demands courage, sacrifice must be embraced. If others are to be saved, one's own desires must be set aside. In that moment, Alex decided he would not simply read this secret and leave it behind. He would carry the journey forward. No matter the pain, no matter the cost of sacrificing himself, he would not turn back. The walls of the lighthouse still echoed with strange whispers, as if testing his resolve. But Alex's steps no longer trembled. In his heart, he whispered, "I will endure the pain, but I will not leave this journey unfinished." In the forgotten room of the lighthouse, time itself seemed to stand still. When Alex finally understood the secret of sacrifice, suddenly the very light he had only seen from afar burst forth before him. But this was no ordinary light. It carried a strange warmth and peace, as if cutting through the darkness and filling the heart with radiance. Alex closed his eyes. In that moment, he felt as though the light wasn't only shining from the lighthouse, but rising from within his own heart. This light was his courage, his sacrifice, his faith. The rays striking the walls seemed to paint a new picture. Within it, Alex could see his father's hard work, his mother's prayers, and the smiles of the village children. These were the imprints of hope rising from deep within him. In his heart, Alex whispered, "This light is not just to end the darkness, it is to awaken hope." With that light came a new spirit within him. He now understood that this journey was not his alone, but for all those whom life had disappointed, for those who had lost their dreams, whose hearts had been broken, who had been lost in the dark. Alex now knew the true strength was not in the light itself, but in the hope that the light awakened in people's hearts, and that hope was stronger than any darkness. The sea had always been a mysterious book for Alex, but that night it revealed its most terrifying face. Dark clouds gathered on the horizon, lightning split the sky, and the roar of the winds screamed like voices in pain. Fishermen tied their boats to the shore, but Alex knew this storm was not just of the weather. It was also a test of his courage. The lighthouse beam spun brighter and faster as if defying the darkness. Yet, at the same time, an uneasy feeling gripped Alex. Deep in his heart, a whisper said, "This is the moment, the true decision lies here." When the first great wave crashed, an old boat near the shore began to sink. The people inside screamed in terror. Hearing their cries, Alex's heart pounded. This was the very moment the diary had spoken of, the dangerous time when one choice could change everything. Two paths stood before him. One, hide inside the lighthouse and save his own life. Two, or leap into the raging storm to save others. The wind grew wilder. Rain poured down like arrows, but Alex's steps did not retreat. He had already decided in his heart, if this light truly belongs to me, then it is for others. He tied a rope around himself and ran toward the shore. With every step, the waves tried to drag him down, but the light within his heart held him firm. The storm screamed, but Alex's courage thundered louder. This was the true test, where the battle between light and darkness was fought not only in the skies, but also in the human heart. The storm raged with full force against the sea. Lightning lit up the sky, and the waves rose like towering walls of water. Everyone on the shore was seeking shelter, but Alex knew that a boat was trapped deep in the sea, and the people inside were hanging between life and death. He tied a rope around his waist, held a lantern in his hand, and stepped into the water. The icy sea sent a shiver through his body, but his heart repeated only one truth: humanity is the greatest duty. As he neared the boat, he heard the cry of a child. The vessel was on the verge of sinking, and on its edge a woman clutched her son tightly to her chest. Their eyes reflected the same fear that comes when a person stares death in the face. With all his strength, Alex threw the rope toward them and shouted, "Hold on! Don't give up!" The woman's trembling hands caught the rope, and she pushed her child toward Alex. For a moment, it seemed the wave would swallow them all, but Alex seized the boy firmly in his arms. The child screamed, but Alex held him close to his chest, whispering comfort. He carried the boy safely back to the shore, where people rushed forward to take him. Yet Alex did not stop. He turned back to the raging sea. The woman was still stuck with the sinking boat, the water rising to her shoulders. Tightening the rope once more, Alex pulled with every ounce of strength he had. At last, despite exhaustion and the storm's fury, he dragged her to safety too. On the shore, people watched his act with awe and gratitude. Some could not hold back their tears. This moment was more than just saving a life. It was a declaration that humanity's greatest deed is to save others. That night, a truth was forever engraved in Alex's heart. The light does not only shine in the lighthouse, but in every heart that sacrifices itself for others. As the morning sun spread its rays across the shore, the entire village began retelling the story of the stormy night. People still could not believe that Alex had risked his life to save not only a child but also his mother from the jaws of death. The lighthouse, once abandoned and feared as a place of darkness, had now taken on a new identity in everyone's eyes. Until yesterday it was a symbol of mystery and dread, but today it stood as a beacon of hope and safety. The elders of the village said to one another, "We always believed this lighthouse was cursed, but today Alex proved that light is never a curse. Light always guides." The children, who once trembled at the thought of going near it, now proudly spoke of visiting it. The women showered Alex with prayers, while the men praised his courage as an example in their gatherings. Alex himself was astonished. He did not wish to be called a hero. For him, the greatest victory was that the lighthouse, once a symbol of fear and darkness, was now igniting a new flame of hope in people's hearts. The community decided to bring the lighthouse back to life. Lanterns would be lit there again, paths would be cleared, and its light would guide sailors passing through the sea. Peace settled in Alex's heart. He thought to himself, this was the true purpose. Light does not only shine on walls, it burns within hearts. From that day on, the villagers no longer called the lighthouse a place of fear. They began to call it the House of Hope. In the silence of the night, when Alex stepped back into the lighthouse, his heart filled with a strange unease. The villagers now called this place a symbol of hope, but one question still haunted him. Why had this lighthouse remained abandoned for so many years? Why had its light gone out? Climbing the creaky stairs slowly, with the whisper of the wind and the groaning of the old wooden planks echoing around him, he reached the upper floor. In one corner he found an old iron cabinet. Breaking the rusted lock, he discovered an ancient book and several yellowed papers inside. Flipping through the pages, Alex realized it was the diary of the man who had once guarded the lighthouse. Its entries told stories of fear and sorrow. One page revealed that on a stormy night, the keeper had been on duty, but the lantern failed to ignite on time. A large ship lost its course, and dozens of lives were swallowed by the merciless waves of the sea. The tragedy shattered the keeper. Though the real cause was the lighthouse's failing system, the villagers, consumed by grief and anger, blamed him and cursed his name. Broken and disgraced, he abandoned the lighthouse forever. From that day on, the light never shone again. Alex drew a deep breath. Now he knew the truth. The lighthouse had never been cursed. It was human negligence and mistrust that had buried its light in darkness. At dawn, Alex gathered the villagers and shared the secret with them. They were astonished. Ashamed of their ancestors' mistakes, they resolved that the lighthouse would never again be left in darkness. Holding the diary to his chest, Alex declared, "This lighthouse reminds us that when truth is buried, darkness spreads. But if we keep the light alive, no storm can ever defeat us." The hidden truth was finally revealed. The mystery of the lighthouse was no more, and its light was reborn to shine forever. Alex was no longer the man who once stood by the shore with broken dreams. He had become someone the entire village was proud of. The lighthouse, once a symbol of fear and mystery, was now known as a beacon of light, hope, and new beginnings. Whenever the sea raged at night, or when darkness threatened to swallow the ships, the people knew the lighthouse's beam would guide them to safety. And that light was more than just a lantern's flame. It was Alex's courage, sacrifice, and humanity shining through. To the children of the village, Alex was a true hero. To the elders, his name carried blessings in their prayers. And to the youth, his story ignited the belief that they too could overcome the darkness in their lives. Alex's heart was at peace. He realized his life's true purpose had been fulfilled. He now understood that the greatest honor in life doesn't come from wealth or fame. It comes when people remember you as a source of hope, when your courage becomes a path for others to follow. That day, the whole village gathered in front of the lighthouse. Together, they decided it would forever be known by a new name, Alex's Light, a light that broke through darkness and reached every heart. With tears in his eyes, Alex looked at the people and said, "I am not the hero. The true hero is the one who holds another's hand in times of hardship. If I've done anything, it was simply never abandoning humanity." Those words carved themselves into the hearts of all who heard them. From then on, the lighthouse was no longer just a building. It became a story, a lesson, and a symbol, a place that declared the true hero is the one who shares his light with others. Time went on, but the story of Alex and the lighthouse was no longer limited to the village. Travelers carried it across the world, fishermen told it along the shores, and it became a lesson that lived on for generations. The world came to know that the power of darkness is never permanent. No matter how deep the storm, even the smallest light can pierce through and make a path, and that light is born from the courage, sacrifice, and love within a human heart. Alex's story made everyone realize that true strength does not lie in wealth or fame. It lies in the spirit that lights a flame of hope for others. The lighthouse was not just a building, it became a message to the world that darkness always fades, but light always remains. In different corners of the world, when people went through hard times, they remembered Alex. They would say, if one man's courage could save an entire village from darkness, then we too can defeat our own shadows. Alex's life came to an end, but his lesson lived on. The lighthouse still stands today, casting its glow across the sea every night as if whispering, "Light never loses." This story left the world with one eternal truth. Humanity's greatest achievement is to brighten the path of hope for others, because light always defeats darkness. And that was the story of the Hidden Lighthouse. A reminder that no matter how deep the darkness is, light always finds a way to shine through. If this journey touched you, let me know in the comments. And hey, your support is the real light that keeps us going, so don't forget to like, share and subscribe so this circle of stories keeps growing. Until next time, remember this, light always wins over darkness.